We have correspondents standing by for us in Tehran and Islamabad, but let's begin in Pakistan, where those talks are taking place with our correspondent, Osama bin Javaid. So, Osama, the Americans and the Iranians are in the same room. They were, I understand, supposed to be in separate rooms, passing messages between each other. Do we know how exactly the change to face-to-face talks came about?
Well, it is a historic moment here in Islamabad, where the Pakistanis are taking credit for convincing these sides to forget their differences for a moment, sit together, resolve what they agree upon, and then move forward. We've been hearing from a number of sources who've been talking about how Pakistan has been trying to convince them to at least extend the ceasefire for a longer period, for the Iranians to keep the Strait of Hormuz open, and then work on everything else that is on the table. The Iranian positions have been quite rigid. They've been talking about how there needs to be a ceasefire in Lebanon, how those assets that have been frozen by the United States need to be given back to the Iranians. And now also we're hearing now that there have been multiple rounds of negotiations, talks in a congenial atmosphere where they've also had dinner, and now there's in the process of exchanging notes. We hear from the Iranian side that their delegate level negotiations are underway, and they're going to continue to try and find avenues. One source has told us that there's a push from Pakistan to try and get at least another day, another round, another extension of these talks so they can come to some sort of a conclusive agreement. So far, that has not happened, and as you've been hearing from the Pakistani Prime Minister, this is make or break for lasting peace in the region. So Pakistani diplomats are saying they're still hopeful. They're trying to convince them to give more and to cede more ground, but it will all depend on both sides and their leaderships to figure out how they go about these talks, what will be the mechanism going forward, and now that they've started meeting face-to-face, can they continue doing that?
So, Osama, you reported that there may be some progress on Lebanon and Iranian assets, and as you just pointed out, the Pakistani Prime Minister had really urged both sides to be flexible here. I wonder, based on what you're hearing, are the Pakistanis actually optimistic for a breakthrough here?
Well, if that is one word in Islamabad right now from the corridors of power, whether to talk to military sources, diplomatic sources, or people in the politicians, they're all hopeful that there is something on the table. Now, they don't want to, there's almost a gag order here in Islamabad where no official will speak to you because they don't want to cast any shadow over what is coming between these two sides. So they're hopeful, they're optimistic, and they're trying to convince both sides to continue talking. And that they've said that this is a platform that is available to them, whether they continue tonight, whether they continue next week, or want to come back to Pakistan. According to the hosts, they're ready to host more talks.
All right, let's see what happens. Osama bin Javaid for us there in Islamabad. Appreciate the reporting. Let's head over to the White House now, where our correspondent Kimberly Halkett is standing by. Excuse me, let's head over just across the street in Islamabad, where our White House correspondent, Kimberly Halkett, is standing by for us. So, Kimberly, look, negotiations are often about striking a conciliatory tone. That is maybe not the tone being sent out by the U.S. President Donald Trump on his social media site, Truth Social. What has he been saying, and do we know if it's having any impact on these talks?
Well, we're going to get to that in just a second because I want to show you what's behind me. If you can see off in the distance there, that building that has lights all along the top is the Serena Hotel, where these talks have been going on. And I should point out, and I have not been able to confirm this because I've been standing out here, but I am relying on Al Jazeera's live updates that the first phase of historic direct talks between the United States and Iran has now concluded. So what we know is that both sides are exchanging written text aimed at confirming they're on the same page on agreements reached in first round of direct in-person talks, obviously since 1979. And we should also point out that there are some sources who are reporting, again, I cannot personally confirm this, but I have been hearing this extensively, that there is an attempt to unfreeze some of the assets belonging to the Iranians, which we know was of a great desire. So that would be the breaking news that is just coming down, that these talks have concluded for now. The big question becomes, what happens next? Is there going to be a further round of discussions? Are they going to spend the night in the Serena Hotel and get back at it at breakfast? We simply don't know, because I'm finding out in real time, just like everybody else. But what I can tell you is that there is a real desire, given the fact that the U.S. Vice President has made the trip here, a lengthy one that involves not a direct flight, but a stop in Europe for refueling, that this is something that can be moved forward in terms of trying to iron out some of the big issues. For the United States, that looks like limiting Iran's ability to have a nuclear weapon and to get the Strait of Hormuz open. Now, again, we're going to have to dig with our sources to find out what was agreed upon in the hotel behind me there. But what I can tell you is that right now the top line appears to be that the talks have concluded for the moment.
And surely in the next couple of days, there's nothing more important on the vice president's schedule than these talks. But let's see where all this goes. Kimberly, we appreciate the reporting.